Alright, folks. Welcome back, everyone. 皆さん、おかえりなさい。今日は199日目です。It is day 199. Tomorrow we'll be doing our 200-day tentative takes. Lots to say, so filling that time will be very quick. We have some grammar coming around, actually a lot of grammar coming back around, so see how this turns out. I think whenever the grammar comes around, we prioritize the grammar coming around to review, and the whole vocabulary routine is on its way to be finalized for like the next couple months, I suppose. Grammar here. 映画館に行きない？行きかない？ Oh, that's actually coincidentally something we talked about yesterday when drama was here. Ikitai contrastive emphasis on cause. なので、だから、明日、試験があるからできない。Or is it no day? Wait. Oh yeah, no this got combined them. Wait. Oh yeah. No.
明
Or
日映画館に行かない？行きたいんだけど。
true. I'm not sure if I'm gonna. Man, I do not remember. I don't default to Dakedo. So the emphasis is size plus. So da is the emphasis, and then they combine it with kiddo. What are my other choices? All the other kiddo, and then I was more thinking this. So that's the normalizing this. And then this, and then got the contrastive. Wonder if you can. Not clear if you can. What are the related? This, right? No. So not like node specifically or like kara. Okay. この本だけ、だけですか？この本、本だけですか？この本の inferred anything else? 欲しいものはありますか？ Inclusive anything else? Like oh no, wait, could be negates the presence of something other than like
この本だけですか？ 他にも欲しいものはありますか？
Interesting. There's a... This the... Oh, okay. And how does that... Nimo... Even another thing sounds lesser. I see. Focuses on something pre-existing which someone may have forgotten. There. Miga kono sashin 写真までだったらあげる That much. Oh, no counter. Rising. Emphatic. Oh, yeah. Rising. Sonnani? Does Sonnani work here? It says that much.
君がこの写真そんなに好きだったらあげる。
だったらあげる。水着を持ってくるの忘れる which if I'm talking about conditional 君に入れないよ入れないよ So if you forget to bring be able to swim cause go with not that it's not that we're looking okay we're looking for a what junction that isn't a verb. No, that's in the event of like as something happens. No, that doesn't work here either. I still think it could be like in the event of something. So something like Iowa. Let's try a different grammar structure. Okay. So does that hang on. A conditional that expresses known or certain outcomes. But Oh, wait, no. Is she? Heck. Maybe Iowa was on the right track. Orete is because, right? And therefore, that doesn't explain a conditional. No. So. Unknown. Oh, maybe it's because of the verb? No. Iowa doesn't require. Maybe like even though. Oh no, even though. No, that's like same direction. Maybe like when something happens, like tada. Tada expresses both yeah is for hypothetical one time, and it also requires the past tense. Oh, that's true. And uses the plain form of a regular outcome. Regular outcome, the plain version of a now that expresses known a certain outcome. Now I think it's bound to be like hazuda, like hazu related. Oh no wait, it's probably to.
水着を持ってくるのを忘れると海に入れないよ。
I swear I forget to all the time. Man, that's like the 4th time this. Considered far stronger than ba. We ruled out ba. Nada. Ada. And then we even did Baiwa. We have, and then I wrote out Moshi, but because Moshi is in a different place. So let's see, we got Baiwa, Moshi, that was, these were two, Nara. Nara is a one-time, oh, it also is a one-time thing. And I ruled this out. Goes for habitual. It's just emphasizing the condition. I also did tara. Drive. Fence. Yeah, ifs are still really rough. However, there are conjugating differences. So this one, I forgot that it takes the past tense of a verb. That's too mechanical. Not a... Okay. And yeah, Nara can take all Naraba really. Which is related to Ba. And Baiwa should be able to do everything, right? Yeah. And Moshi is in the before the phrase. And it's usually can add it to Tara, so Moshi and Tara together. Ooh. Oh. Worst nightmare fuel. Okay. Oh no, factory. What the heck is the factory? Oji. Ojo. Ojo wa not the least. Nai. Shika anzen janai kedo. Pay. Like income pay. What is that? Kiryo. Kyuryo ga itte. Oh wait, that's nothing but. Not the least. Ah man, dude, double negatives. Not even little. So it's not even little. Oh, 少し、少しも。
この工場は少しも安全じゃないけど、給料がいいって。
日本には、バスと、電車とタクシーがあるので、車をnot have to. So oh. Huh? Think so? Oh no, wait. That depends. Is this like a Hitsuyo? Is this a Hitsuyo moment? Oh no, it's okay moment. Oh, I wonder how I'm gonna be able to differentiate between. Oh, I guess it's the difference between don't have, must. Like, 買って、no, 買わなくても。
日本にはバスと電車とタクシーがあるので、車を買わなくてもいい。
I don't know about that. So we would have to group must have, like, don't have to, don't need, right? Don't have to, don't need, and then need, must, have to. Okay. All right. Oh, let's get to the fun part. Let's go read more topics. I imagine the N4 will cover the don't have, need, must situation. All right. Remaining particles needed in their basic uses. Huh. Location, location, location. All right. De, ni, and to. Fair enough. I can tell. All right. In this topic, we'll learn about the particle de and ni are used. How the particles de and ni are used with locations. And also see the particle to be used to mean something like with someone, right? Which is kind of a relational location thing. With these particles and uses of them, we will be able to start constructing more complicated sentences. Right.
駅のホームで友人と会う。
Okay.
妻とコンビニとスーパーに行く。
Right. Wait, we're just gonna scroll down to the optional. I think that is pretty good. Pretty solid. We have the need verbs like Sumu often confuses as they use ni instead of de. This is also due to the fact that sumu is a verb that can only be completed at the destination. Yeah, okay. We look at the caution stuff. Yeah, this is fine. Though, but they stuck in the beginning, they stuck to the very first entries, not to overcomplicate things early. Obviously, we'll be seeing ni, and to at least a couple more times. Details. Although particles are tiny words, we're already seeing that they carry a lot of meaning. Let's take a closer look at the difference between de and ni when used with location. Oh, I'm expecting a diagram. Yesterday's topic stuff had I forgot what it's called now. I'm gonna say dices, something like that. That Venn diagram looking thing, which was very interesting, the center point. And then the day before, I forgot about that table, the rows and columns. That was very exciting. We might have to go over that tomorrow in the 200. And also how changing the position of to can affect the meaning of a statement. Means and ends. Oh, right. De and ni. As we have just learned, ni tends to focus on the ends, right? Destination, purpose, etc. While de tends to focus on the means where an action takes place, and then there's still hit, right, in the future. When used with location, de tells us the stage upon which an action occurs. Right? It doesn't necessarily tell path, but sometimes de is described as a path. Like means feels like it's talking about the process, but that's not quite right. De is more like the characteristics of what is like the conditions of what is happening as you're going there, but not in what direction it is happening. I think I remember early in the days where you could think of some might describe it as ni being the destination and de being the process in which ni happens, but then de and he are also they're both involved in the process. There's more going on in the process than there is the destination, which is a little bit of an important topic to me when it comes to learning.
僕は学校で給食を食べます。
給食. Interesting. 給食. On the other hand, ni has two main uses with location. First, when used with verbs to do with movement, it will tell us intended destination of an action, right?
電車がホームに入ります。
Okay. Second, when used with verbs to do with existing, it will tell us where the thing in question exists. As mentioned in the grammar point information, it may seem like de should work here, but it is actually unnatural due to the verb focusing on passively existing and not actively doing something. We see the difference more clearly in the following example.
私はマンションに住みます。
Okay, right?
お姉さんは病院で生活します。
Interesting. 生活. Huh. Intriguing. That was a good one. 生活する。
私と姉はあそこの旅館に泊まります。
Right. Yeah. Okay, I see. And then.
弟は電車で寝ます。
Okay, okay. I got you. Do they separate on transitive and no, they don't. There's no need to remember everything mentioned in this topic all at once, as we will revisit both day and ni again later, as foreshadowed, right? Yukari! That's a coincidence. Are you with me? Are you with me now? Finally, let's take a look at to. We've seen how to can mean something like and, connecting nouns, or with, connecting a person to an action. But sometimes the sentence order can change the nuance. Let's see how this works in practice. When an action is reciprocal, something people do with or to each other, like marrying or fighting, the particle position changes the focus. Hello? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What?
拓也はゆかりと結婚する。
Okay, there's a blank here. So, Yukari wa Takuya to kekkon suru. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then
拓也はゆかりと結婚する。
okay, I see that.
「ゆかりと拓也は結婚する。
Alright, fair enough. On the other hand, when an action is something that can only be done alone, right, doesn't require a partner, or is expected to be done alone, then the meaning is completely unambiguous. Will mean and.
ジョンとエリは車を運転します。
That's interesting. I haven't even considered this situation. Huh. Okay. I got you. Intriguing. Although this can seem tricky when examples are listed together like this, it will normally be very clear from the context what is meant. I haven't considered this situation. Huh. So you can really simplify things. Oh, or like contextualize things. That would be interesting to do something like
John とエリは車を運転します。
So like John, what about John to Eddie wa, let's say like 学校に走る or something, right? 走る technically okay, then we just assume it's ambiguous and we need context, whether they run to school separately or together. I see. And then things that it's more of a confirmation thing. If it is reasonably like in action, interesting. Fair enough. At the station, are we talking about, are they changing it up? Oh, it's Sakura and Amy. Okay.
さくら。おはようエミちゃん。駅の入り口はここ？エミ。おはようさくらちゃん。ここは出口だよ。入り口はあそこ。さくら。ありがとう。今日も図書館に行く？エミ。今日は学校の友達と公園でバーベキューをする。さくらちゃんは？さくら。私はお母さんと妹と一緒に旅館に行くよ。私とお母さんはそこで働く。私は旅館でピザを作るよ。エミ。旅館は遠い？お母さんと一緒にピザを作る？さくら。旅館は近いよ。お母さんは旅館で日本語を教えるよ。妹はそこで日本語を習う。エミ。面白いね。私もお姉ちゃんの誕生日にその旅館に泊まるよ。さくら。じゃあ私はこの電車に乗るね。エミ。いってらっしゃい。
Oh, it got kind of, I lost something a little bit, just a moment, but okay. Kind of got lost. Okay. So, Sakura. So which one is Sakura? Definitely, she's definitely Sakura in the diagram. Oh, Sakura says hello, right? Amy-chan, is this the entrance, the station entrance? And she says hi. Sakura-chan. This is the exit. The entrance is over there. Asoko is a topic we went over yesterday. Possibly the day before. It might be yesterday. And then Sakura's like, thanks. Also, are you going to the library? Today, are you also going to the library? Right? 今日も図書館に行く? And then her was funny. It's like, anyways, yep. Today they're actually, is that a no or a yes based on what they said? So afterwards, it said, today, a school friend, they're going to the park with a school friend for a barbecue, right? A barbecue. So I'm guessing no, right? The part, I was listening for it, but having it written kind of removes some ambiguity. And then she asked, and you, right? So it's no, right? Then Sakura's like, me? Mother is with Imoto, ne? Imoto together. They were at a ryokan. Ryokan is like a kind of a hostel-like place, a place to stay or travel, right? So they went to ryokan, and then me, mother are gonna work there. Yeah. And then in terms of her, they will make pizza there, basically. That's kind of interesting. I wasn't sure if that's a typical activity. You just make pizza at the ryokan. And then Emi as, is it far? Right? Oyi. And your mother and you are going to make pizza together. Like, question mark. Will you make pizza? Yeah, will you make pizza with your mom? And ryokan, and then she said it's really close, right? The ryokan wa chikai yo. Mother, in turn, regarding mother, the ryokan, in the ryokan, she is teaching Japanese. Doesn't quite say in what manner. Then imoto wa soko. So little sis there is learning Japanese there, right? Oh, I guess that's inferring that I was thinking these be flipped. Maybe that's a priority thing. And then Amy confirms, that's interesting. And now she's changing the subject to her. Also have a older sister whose birthday is like on birthday, who's staying at the ryokan. Is it the same one? At that, yeah, the sono ryokan. Sono ryokan this, right? And then, well then, today I'm gonna get on the train, right? I'm gonna get on the train, and then it's like, good luck, take care. So, how many instances? So one thing, definitely notice that they're very friendly with each other, right? They know each other fairly well. Yeah, that's gonna be, just gotta listen more often, I suppose. I do like that they use the typical how to reflexively ask back without having to ask the question literally, like literally say the question back. Although my habit is to literally say the question back. Not in Japanese, in English, but probably in Japanese too. So we do have a bunch of to here where there's talking about, now you have going to get isho. Isho is an important one to complement the to. So a list here with people, right? With people. And then there's a de was used for hataraku, right? Hataraku is an action. So where are they working? Over there, right? In the ryokan. It was ni, here it is. So ni. That's interesting. Yeah. So, oh, actually, that is interesting. Oh, no, because of the together, right? I'm not sure if the topic up here, right, how ni works, quite explains ishoni. This might filter into a topic about the destination of the people that is doing it, or eventually be receiving it or doing it. And here's a ni for iku, right? Here's one, is the entire phrase, the entire verb phrase that is ryokan is the place in which the entire action is being placed. So Nihongo shieru, or really Nihongo shieru, that's an action that's being done, and it's being done at the ryokan. And then obviously studying, right? Studying as well. Nararu. So Nihongo nararu, there. Staying. So staying is that one where you exist, persist. So not quite in action, but more of a persistence. So they use ni right here. Tanjobi ni. That's the time. And noru. Oh yeah. Noru is interesting too. Like you're riding in the train or getting on the train. So that is not de, right? Ni, because that's the destination. Lots of good ones in there. I'll try to cover more. Okay. So now we have the probably that's right? So we're changing the nuance of confirmation. I imagine they're gonna mention something about ne. Definitely became more accustomed to this. So that desho is lighter, right? More polite way of asking for confirmation, or like basically supposing that it is likely correct with some nuance of knowing that it is likely correct. And then daro would be even more assertive. So in this topic, we're going to learn how to change the tone of our sentence with desho and daro. Both can be used to mean something to be probably or right, although with more varied nuance. I'll also compare both with right ne, which is expected, which may appear similar, but actually serves a different social function.
月曜日の昼ご飯はハンバーガーでしょう。日曜日はパーティーだろう。
Okay. Was there a caution? Despite sounding relatively low confident, using desho implies that the speaker has some form of information that makes him believe A is true, right? And then daro. While daro is usually used when the speaker has some sort of information that will support their assertion, it can also be simply when the speaker feels that something is true. Oh. In this case, that expresses feeling or a hunch. Huh. I take this a little bit stronger than this, but based on how they describe it, it's not as strong. Daro carries exactly the same meaning as desho, which is the desho polite equivalent. However, due to da being more casual, right, daro is also considered more casual and masculine. And well, let's take a closer look at the two modes of desho and daro and how intonation affects the meaning, right? Because one could be like going down, a confirmation, and then you can also kind of raise your tone to make it sound a little unsure, and also how they differ from the sentence ending particle ne. Definitely maybe. Definitely maybe. When said with a flat or falling intonation, right? Desho, daro, express quite a high degree of probability, right? As though you're making a statement, which can be a little tough in this world of self-conditioning influencer speak. Influencer speech tend to not incorporate flat or falling intonations to sound assertive. It typically has a rising tone or a mid-tone, like a flat tone. oftentimes to string together more and more statements. As mentioned in the grammar point information, there's normally some information or reason behind both of the uses. In particular, daro can actually come across as quite strong assertion, right?
今週の木曜日は晴れるだろ
Right. When said with a rising tone like a question, then desho, daro are used to look for confirmation, right?
う。火曜日はサッカーの練習でしょ
Which is, I've gotten far more used to these. Okay, naysayers. Oh boy. As we just learned, desho, daro can come across similar to right or right. Desho, daro can come across similar to right or don't you think versus right, don't you think? Right, English also has that where, or the analogous is this app is really good, right? Versus this app is really good, right? Same deal. But didn't we already see this exact thing with the sentence ending particle ne? Yeah. Although they seem close when translated, the nuance is actually quite distinct in Japanese. Ne is used when it's assumed that the other person already feels the same way. Yeah. And one is looking for agreement on a shared feeling. On the other hand, desho, daro are used for logical arguments or predictions. Yeah. So, kinda like, I don't know. Work is tough, desho. Right. What is that? How do I say that? I don't know. Baito wa 難しいでしょ versus you and a coworker trying to chill because of a hard day. Like 難しいね. Right? Like you're in the context of the thing likely to agree and share the feeling. So like if you're both tired or there's requirements of a common feeling. And desho daro oftentimes, in my opinion, like the way I would say, like if you're trying to state maybe a logical fact or something kind of void of feeling, so to speak. So I'm a bit more animated whenever I'm the stuff that I'm more animated by when I'm speaking tend to be a ne versus the things that I'm trying to sound very steel or like affirmative based on objectivity is usually these two. Although I don't really use daro that much despite being assertive. I'm not a very assertive person when it comes to stating something. And that whole masculine comment, that's kind of fading a little. And I'm not sure if the whole thing about using it as masculine is becoming stronger, but the thing is you can use the occurrence of desho still kind of occurs for both genders. So like one is neutral, the other is masculine. So not like the other one isn't masculine situation. Yep, we're good.
最近お弁当が高いですね。土曜日の病院は人が多いだろう。
Right. In fact, it is even possible to use desho or daro together with ne. Oh yeah. Yeah. Daro ne. Daro. That sounds weird. Desho ne is a little bit to show emphatic agreement with ne based on it. So you combine the two, right? It's logically agree, but you also have an emphatic feeling on it. I think when it comes to propensity, nearly the natural thing is to the naysayers. The naysayers are far outweigh the. I feel like Desho and Daro are in like formal settings. Not like formal as in polite speech, but more when you're trying not to be too expressive. Weekend plans. Okay. Saka. Ne? Okay.
拓也、土曜日か日曜日は暇ですか？ケン、はい、土曜日も日曜日も休みです。拓也、サッカーの練習を一緒にしますか？ケン、はい、土曜日は多分雨でしょ？日曜日に練習をしますか？拓也、そうですね。日曜日は晴れるだろう。じゃあ土曜日は一緒にハンバーガーを食べますか？ケン、はい、あそこのお店に行きますか？雨の日は人が少ないでしょう。拓也、そうですね。あそこのハンバーガーは毎日忙しいですよね。初めて行きます。ケン、そうです。いつも人が多いです。晴れの日は店の人は大変だろうね。拓也、じゃあ土曜日の午前に駅で会う？ケン、はい。
Okay. Okay, so Takuya says, oh, and then here's another use. Ka is like or, right? We had the topic or. So, are you free? Hima desu ka? And then, are you free during Saturday or Sunday? Are you free on Sunday or Saturday? Actually, since it's ka, it's we have to keep in mind that ka is exhaustive. So it's either you're free on Saturday or Sunday. And those are the only choices. Like those are the two, right? And then Ken says, yes, both Saturday. I'm free using yasumi desu. And they're kind of very polite to each other here, right? So I'm free on both, and mo is the inclusive also, right? The other inclusive also for and, as opposed to like using a different and. Takuya says that do you want to practice soccer together, right? Or will you do soccer practice with me? That's fair. Technically, yeah, soccer practice. Do you wanna do soccer practice together? Yeah, with him. Okay. As opposed to saying, do you want to practice soccer together? As opposed to like have soccer practice together. Then Ken says yes. Right, Saturday. In terms of Saturday, there's likely, right, desho, logically, there's a logical reason to believe that there is probably going to be rain on Saturday. Tabun. So, 土曜日は多分雨でしょ? And he was raising up, so he was also looking for confirmation, right? Then Sunday, 日曜日に練習をしますか? So then, do you want to practice? Do you want to do practice on Sunday as opposed to Saturday, since it's probably going to rain? Takuya says, そうですね. Strongly agreeing, emphatically, and affirming, right? Affirming, polite, emphatic. そうですね. And it has an exclamation mark, so it's like forceful agree. And Sunday is going to be, so now they're using daro. They're both males, so you could argue with that. And this is the daro, so it's making a statement that there's a logical reason to believe that Sunday is going to be sunny. Hare. Right. Hare hareru. Or to clear up, so to speak, actually. That Sunday will clear up from the rain on Doyobi. Doyobi ni. Ja, so, okay. Doyobi, Saturday, we can, well, concerning Saturday, we can eat. Should we eat something, or do you want to eat something? Do you want to eat hamburgers, right? Hamburger o tabemasu ka? Right. Let's see how this is. Yeah, it will probably be clear. Or clear up, so to speak. If I were to think about the sentiments about assuming that the day before is going to rain. Then Ken says, sure, like, hey. And then we can, do you want to go over there to, like, over the store over there, right? During, when it comes to rainy days, ame no hi wa hito ga tsukunai desho. So it's probably going to have fewer people at the store during rainy days. And Takuya said, "Oh, desu ne," obviously, to absolutely, you know, like that's true. And then over there, the hamburgers over there. Every day there is very busy, right? So it's asking for confirmation and emphatic, right? And actually is yone, so it's even more emphatic and assertive, a bit assertive as well for the confirmation. And then, because this is a question, so he was confirming. You kind of just fill these out as they're saying it. And then, kimete ikimasu, right? Oh, no, not kimete. Hajime de ikimasu. So let's start, right? Let's go. Or let's go first, right? Oh no, this is hajime in terms of the first time. Go for the first time. My bad. Really? Or so desu. That's fair. That's a confirmation, but now, or it's not a confirmation. It's simply an acknowledgement because the ne is missing. Is that so? Or I see. So desu. Itsumo, there's always a lot of people there, right? There's a lot of people there. Itsumo hito ga oii desu. Nothing there. Then hare no hi wa on sunny days, or when concerning sunny days, mise no hito wa taihen daro ne. Basically, it's problematic. There's lots of people there, right? Lots of people at the store. On sunny days, the staff at the store probably run off their feet. Yeah, they're probably like having a lot of trouble, like very busy, heavy, lots of things are going on, and probably run off their feet. That's a funny way to say it. And then, well then, doyobi ni gozen ni eki de au. So, okay, then, well then, let's just meet at the station on Saturday. Saturday afternoon, right? Are we gonna meet, or should we meet? Right, we will meet. I'm adding should, but it's not really saying should. This is like the casual invitation meeting question, as opposed to like, I don't know. I must show, right? I must show, or something like that. aimashou Then, hi. Okay. I forgot, hajimete is using this character, not the to start character. Okay. That's awesome. All of the stuff that you're constantly flexing, you kind of end up feeling it out as well. Like when they say like, daro, desho, daro, desho ne, daro yo ne. Alright. Go to the next topic. What was that one? Desho, daro. Yeah, for logical stuff. Existential crisis. Talk about the existence of people and things. Okay. So now we finally get into the iru and aru. Of course, iru and aru. In this topic, we're going to take a closer look at the verbs aru and iru, which is used to say that someone or something exists. We'll dive into the full range of uses and nuances in the details section, right?
あそこに猫がいる。
That's really emphatic.
ここに可愛い花があります。
あります。花があります。Switch of pene versus casual, and some prosodicness here. Okay. Do we have any cautions? What are we cautions? The ga in garu is often omitted in casual speech. Okay, that's fair. Iru, probably the ga in. Alright. Although we touch on the basics on the individual grammar point pages, let's take a closer look at the deeper nuance of iru and aru, the animated versus non-animated. Right, to have and have not as well, the have and have not. This one, boy do people love to give hot takes over and over again when you first start Japanese, and if you're sharing it publicly. To have and have not, because of like complaints about trying to make it feel like English by interpreting aru and iru as have or have not. The answer is both. It's all of the above. The idea is there's a high propensity for the assumption that someone who sees aru and iru as a translational to have or have not would then choose to keep it that way and never learn anything new or more to it. So the advice is constantly like, oh no, you shouldn't think of it as have or have not. It's existence. Existence is the thing. And it occurred multiple times. Like in the beginning, at least 4 or 5 different versions were thrown at me. Like, oh well, it's not have or have not. It's existence. And I'm like, it's not only existence. It's both. And it's, in my opinion, one of the counter arguments is the rigidity of their English is what's happening. Like, you can phrase something have is to have something that exists. Like, to have is something that exists in your possession. So you can flexibly interpret it both ways. It's kind of like looking at the grammar and saying like to has a central meaning. It's not an exclusive meaning. It's a flexible meaning. So is aru and iru. We'll also know that animated things and not animated things are also flexible in that way too. It's interesting. As I dial back and get closer and closer to the beginning of the times when I was learning Japanese, it does the similar thing where things are so easy or spoken as a matter of fact, like they're so confident as competence go down. And it's it's fun to reminisce, I suppose, a little bit about that. Where the less competent you appear, the more likely someone who is, in my opinion, respectfully, are equally as less competent, but relatively more competent to you, right, would talk like there are no nuances, while saying there are nuances. Like, oh, Iru and Aru, the nuance is that it means existence. The nuance is that it means all of the above. Nuance involves comparing, similarities and differences, not differences. Differences is not nuance. It's nearly the opposite of nuance. Nuance is when you compare things, not contrast things exclusively. And it's also not only look at the similarities. That's also not necessarily nuance, right? Nuance involves both processes. Although we touch on the basics, okay. Let's say to have and not have. Both Iru and Aru can sometimes be translated as have, sometimes. As in not all the time, and also not exclusive, right? Which I was anticipating they would write that. With Iru, this is the case such as having a boyfriend or sister. Wow, a boyfriend or sister. That's an interesting pair, and so on.
私は弟がいます。
So like a little brother exists, right? That little brother exists because it's it's the brother of the context, like the contextual subject or topic. Or topic. Right? With Aru, this use implies possession or ownership and will often use the kanji, Aru, to show this, or possession, a possession character, to show this nuance. This is just an extension of its normal meaning, where something that one owns is something that exists in one's possession. They took the words out of my mouth. So this is what I said in like the first month of Duolingo, because they had to use Aru and Iru, specifically Aru very early, to use as a functional verb to tie together all the objects that you learn immediately. And maybe on 5 or 6 different instances, someone who talks about this, they talk about it as though it's exclusive of each other, where like, oh, existence is not the same as to have or have not. Like, well, yeah, you can see it as not the same. There are similar things and different things, both. When something exists within your possession is to have something. This occurred so many times. There is actually a recording of this Aru Iru discussion probably within the first month of Duolingo 2.5 years ago with a very specific person.
冷蔵庫に人参がある。
And I haven't, fast forward 2.5 years, I haven't really changed my stance on what I said. Nowadays, it just includes that person's perspective on top of it. I did say this exact thing, though. Like, I expressed this exact point when I barely knew what Aru and Iru meant. Since the kanji or in Aru is used with Aru to show possession, you may be wondering if any kanji is used to show the nuance of simple existence. And there is one. Yeah. Zai. Zai is one. Can be used to emphasize existence instead of possession. Exactly. So, this later, we got this character, right? Aru. Now, obviously, during the Duolingo sessions way early, they use the mimetic, right? The hirakana. So the hirakana is composed of all of the above characters. So in fact, when that person was talking to me about Aru and Iru and how they were describing it, fast forward after like halfway through HanziHero, right, when I learned Hanzi and then did my Wanikani and my character studies, they were in fact incorrect. So not only was the advice well early on when they had a lot of experience, it was actually it was unintentional misinformation. Not disinformation, but it was misinformation. So Aru, since it's written in hiragana, you actually can use characters to represent the existence or the possession of something. This is when one becomes more familiar with the characters, because they would be listed in the same entry in Jisho, at least I think, when it comes to Japanese. There is one other Aru. There should be 3 Arus, I think, that I'm aware of. See if it's listed together. It might not be. I see the possess. I also see the live. Or like existence, the other existence. This one. Oh, this is Iru, right? Oh, maybe it doesn't. Is it a separate entry? Oh, neat. Wait. I was expecting it to be grouped together. Color me surprised. It's not grouped together. Oh no, sorry. Wait, yeah. Intriguing. Or is it... oh, maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing. It's probably under E. Is it under E? No, it's not. Man, I really thought they would lump them together. I guess it's not that obvious. I have to take it back for the Jisho comment. Get the entry for the character. Yeah. Anyways, but generally speaking, despite this nuance, I think typically the Aru is this one. So this one is the one that's being referred to, and if I had to guess, this then took on the meaning of this being the less common use. Like, to simplify things, writing Aru would encompass both of these uses. So in the end, the nuance is both possession and existence. Both. Not or, not which one's more important. It's both. That's what in my opinion, that's what creates nuance. Not making it simpler and simplifying things. It's like, this is right. A is right. It's not B. That is simplifying things. Simplification. Also, it was implying and constantly inferring that someone is wrong and someone's right. Nuance makes it kind of murky whether someone is right or wrong. Despite this, in the vast majority of cases, no kanji is used to write Aru. Hiragana is the standard, so it is not necessary to memorize the kanji forms right away. I like how they say right away, because these two characters are actually used elsewhere, so knowing the characters, the actual kanji is also important, whether you're memorizing the form itself or not. At least in my opinion. Particle physics. As we have seen so far, the location where something exists is usually marked by ni, right? Oh yeah, from our last topic, and then they acknowledges it here, which is very useful.
鳥が木にいる。私の靴はキッチンにある。
Yeah, and the iru that I think they're using, I already written it here. It's probably this one. I don't think there's a analogous one other than defaulting to the same character as Aru. No. I'm thinking of all the different ones. I don't know if this qualifies. Whoops. I don't know if this qualifies. If there is like a special use like this way to make it, but this then becomes, it could end up becoming ooh instead. So there might be another one here too. We're gonna accept that it's read as iru and aru. However, even though ni is the standard particle to use when marking a location with iru and aru, there is one case where there are a little difference and de must be used instead. Yeah. As we learned in a previous topic, de is used to mark the location that an action takes place, like a stage. This means that when talking about holding or conducting an event, it is used, right? So the focus is on the action of the event, not on simply existing. So like a concert or a party.
喫茶店で誕生日パーティーがあるよ。
You'll see this used commonly for things like festival, concerts, parties, and meetings, and that is definitely one that I tripped up on. So I'm like, what? How can the thing do things? Party planning. Neat. What's up with the room and having clothing just lying around? Guess we'll find out.
娘。お母さん、私のシャツがない。赤いズボンもない。母。キッチンの机にあるよ。娘。ありがとう。あ、これはラッキーの服。ラッキーはママの部屋にいるよね。母。ラッキーは外にいるよ。あなたの服は多分私の部屋にある。娘。ありがとう。明日、学校で友達の誕生日パーティーがある。その服が必要。ケーキも欲しい。母。冷蔵庫にお砂糖と卵とイチゴと牛乳があるね。一緒にケーキを作る？娘。うん、ありがとう。
Okay. The whole lucky clothing kind of threw me off a little bit. Like, okay. All right. So, musume, the daughter, right? The daughter, like, mother, I do not have shirts, right? There are no shirts, right? There are no shirts. So, nai is iru. Sorry, aru. Aru, the negative form, aru is guess, would that be considered irregular? Yeah, I guess that'd be considered irregular in the negative form. So nai is the aru's negative form. So there's my shirts don't exist, basically. My shirts don't exist. The red pants as well don't exist. Right? Or my red pants don't exist because it's not repeating watashi, right? Then the mother says the lucky it says Lucky, oh no, sorry, not Lucky. Kitchen. So the kitchen table, they're on the kitchen table, right? Wait. Does that actually say it's on they're on the desk in the kitchen? Oh, okay. The reason why I was questioning is because they're not in the kitchen, or like they're. Oh, okay. That's supposed to be in the kitchen. Okay. I'm trying to sync it up with the image. And Musume says thanks. This kore, our topic on kore. This, the shirt that she's holding, is her lucky. It says lucky clothing, but it's her lucky clothes, right? Or article of clothing. Contextual wise, it can be referred to the shirt. You know, I mean, she could say lucky no shatsu or something like that as well. It's perfectly fine. So, in the diagram. Then lucky wa mama no heya ni iru yo ne. So that's a little weird. Like Lucky is in your room, right? Yeah. So Lucky, yeah. So it is Lucky's clothing. Okay. It did throw me off. I'm like, are they referring to? Yeah, so this threw me off right here. So we're talking about lucky as in lucky, like someone's lucky, not like someone is lucky, not lucky, I think. Because then after I heard this, I'm like, wait a minute. The person's name is Lucky. It must be a animal, and that's where the rabbit comes from, because then the mother says Lucky is outside, right? He's outside. I'm like, what the heck? Are you talking about Lucky clothing? Or are you talking about a clothing with like something with Lucky, like the Lucky, a thing, or an animal in this case? And then in terms of your clothing, probably it's somewhere in the room, in my room, right? It's probably in my room. Your clothing are probably in my room, right? And the mother's room. Musume says thank you. Tomorrow I have a birthday party at the school. Is what that says. There's a birthday party at the school. At first, I'm like, do people have birthday? It's a more of a cultural thing. I was kind of half expecting them to say like at someone's house, like, you know, ie de, or ie no tamodachi de, tamodachi no tanjoubi party ga aru, or something like that. But it's at the school. So this clothing, I need this clothing, or this clothing is necessary, or that clothing, the one that is not in the room but wherever the mother said. So sono fuku ga hitsuyo. And then she randomly blurs. Also, I want cake, right? I want cake, as in like a more so. Also, I want cake. Ma, you know, mama, cake. Keiki wo, right? Keiki wo tsukuru, tsukuru ka, or something. Oh no. It's will you make? Yeah, that's fine. Like, she's like suggesting I want cake. Also, I want cake, and it's inferring that can you make some cake? At least my opinion. And then the mother said in the refrigerator, right? In the refrigerator, there's sato, sugar, eggs, strawberries, and milk. Right? There are those things. So we could then together we could make a cake. Or do you want to make a cake? It's asking as a question. Like we could make a cake together. Is that arigato, right? There's sugar, eggs, strawberries, and milk, right? Sato to tamako to ichigo to gyunyu ga aru ne, or aru ne. The lucky thing threw me off so much. I'm like, lucky? Are they saying lucky's clothes? Or are they saying clothes that happens to be lucky? And the moment the mother said lucky's outside, I'm like, oh, okay. They're talking about like some sort of pet. Subversion. My expectations were subverted. I was thinking she was talking about, oh, I should wear some lucky clothing for the birthday party. Because at first, the second meaning, like my context meaning forked. Is she complaining about not having her lucky clothing? Like, she's looking for her, like, special sentimental clothing to wear to the... But then the birthday party is happening at the school. So I'm like, I guess she's wearing a uniform. I was like rationalizing that when I was listening, right? At school tomorrow. Like, oh, okay. It's hard for me, like, I would have to think about myself outside. I typically don't picture hanjobi party, right? Gakko ni, or gakko de, I suppose. Which, this is a very important topic because remember that despite gaaru, tanjobi, right? Tanjobi party is an event. It is something that's happening, so you use de as opposed to ni. Alright. Let's do one more topic. One more topic. These are great. Oh, now we're doing the nominalizing no, right? Nominalizing no. The demonstrative turning into a nominalization, which is already technically covered in a combining 2 points, the no and the kosoado. We already had are, right? The kore situation, and then we had the koko, right? The position, and then now this is the kono. Learn about pre-noun adjectivals. Okay, pre-noun. I called them demonstratives because the English translation, they would end up being demonstratives. Or like overlapping with demonstrative, this, that, these, those. In this topic, we're going to learn more words in the kosoado family. Right? Kono, sono, and ano are used to refer to specific objects. We're avoiding do family for all of them until they find a particular place to group them all. I imagine after this. Are there any more? Oh no, there's still more. Like sonna, donna, onna. There's also kochira, dochira, sochira, sochi, right? There's also chi. And those are probably a lot more later down the road. So I can see a kochira, or like I could see a donna, sonna. I'm not sure if son, like the na part was N5 or not. They are also a special type of word called a pre-noun adjectival. Man, pre-noun adjectival. Yeah, so it's before the noun, and it's an adjective of the noun. Okay. Which will be learned about in details. Yeah, so I can kind of see why it's called a pre-noun. So the noun is here. Adjectival, it's describing the like the location, or sort of like the location, relative location of the thing it's describing or preceding.
この景色は綺麗だ。
景色は綺麗だ。This is typically a special note here. Kire is a non-adjective, so presumably you're supposed to include the da, but honestly, I still sometimes hear this being dropped because I don't know. Kire is not an e adjective. You could drop the da if it's an e adjective, like in the scheme of grammatical pedanticness. However, if you just go like この景色は綺麗. Sure.
その森に熊がいるよ。
熊がいるよ。
あの薬はまずいよね。
まずい, man. まずい is written in kana. Are there multiple mazuis? I don't think so. Mazui is a flexible. It's like e or yoi. There or umai. Mazui is very flexible. It's contextualized when, so mazui is gross here because they're talking about medicine. Which, how, in what nature gross? There is a word for bitter, so like Nigai? But Mazui is bad. Something contextually bad or undesirable. As the name pre-noun actually would suggest, these words will appear before. Okay, so they did describe these things in here. Okay. Now that we know a few different sorts of kosoado words, let's look at the grammatical mechanics. We'll see how kono is different to koreno. Oh, I haven't even considered. Like, I assumed kono was the nation, like the shortening of koreno, but I don't think I've ever like seen koreno, so that's interesting that they mentioned that. And what sono has in common with the words like shisana. Oh yeah, true. That's interesting. So so like sona later down the road also has a feeling of quantity, especially a smaller or like some sort of undefined quantity. And I can see where they're getting the chisana with the sono. This one here, we've seen how kono is used to mean this one, but what is the difference when using the no particle with sore or koko? Well, kono can be used to describe a noun in terms of a relative location, physical or otherwise. It can't tell us anything about possession or category. For that, we need to use no. Oh, okay. That's how you... Oh, okay.
この飲み物は美味しいね。これの赤はありますか?
My thought immediately was context. Like, I thought it's just kono, like kono for both, and you just infer the context. as opposed to writing it kono versus koreno.
今日はここの温泉に行きます。
Okay. Okay. Let's the location, but doesn't have okay. The exact same logic applies to others, so for that. When is an adjective not an adjective? That is a great question. As mentioned on their grammar point page, ono, sono, and ano are pre-noun adjectivals, right? So carry body speech. 例態詞 These words can only ever come directly before nouns. They cannot be used alone, and they never conjugate, right?
この動物はかわいい。
Right.
動物はこのだ。
Right. Below, let's compare this to standard adjectives, which are flexible.
強い風。風は強い。
Oh, I see. They're fair enough. When is an adjective not an adjective? I see. That's not the point that I thought they were gonna go through. The big and small of it all. There are two common pre-noun adjectives which are sometimes mistaken for non-adjectives because they end in a na, sound like chisana, okina, meaning small and big. We can tell that they are not actually non-adjectives as they only ever be used before nouns and do not conjugate. Oh, well that solves one of my that checks out. Fair enough, that checks out.
小さな花。大きな橋。
大きな橋。この猿は小さな。いい。小さい。
この猿は小さな。
Yeah, 小さい。These words have a corresponding pair of e adjectives. Yeah, 小さい, 大きい. The difference in nuance can sometimes be small, but the e adjective version sounds more objective and factual.
このスーツは小さい。晩ご飯は小さなラーメン屋に行く。
All right. Well, that does answer one of my suspicions. So ryokan are the traditional inns, right? It was one of the topics of the previous one. There is a haru. Oh no. Okay. Are those real monkeys though, or is that an it? Kidding. All right.
旅館の人。あなたの部屋はこの番号です。この部屋の夜の景色はとても美しいですよ。2人。ありがとうございます。ありがとうございます。女の人。部屋に大きい温泉がある。あの大きな窓もいいね。男の人。ここの旅館きれいだろう。女の人。うん、とてもきれい。あそこの動物は猿？男の人。そうだね。その猿は小さい子供だね。かわいいね。女の人。風が強いね。窓を閉める？男の人。そうだね。明日の昼ご飯はあのラーメン屋で食べるよ。女の人。あの森の中にあるラーメン屋？男の人。うん、面白いでしょ？女の人。面白いラーメン屋だね。男の人。明日の午前は雨だよ。午後は天気がいいよ。朝はホテルで休む？女の人。そうだね。
Okay, so ryokan no hito is assumed that is people who are running the ryokan, the employees, and your room, right? Your rooms are in this number here. Like this is the number of your rooms. I'm saying ya because there's actually two, but plural or singular. Anata. I don't think anata tashi or something like that. That's be weird. Okay, anyways. This room, this was the like, so when it comes to the view at night, the night view of this room, right? So この部屋の夜のしけは no 景色は so the night view of this room, right? That is very beautiful. とても美しいでしょ? Right? Then the two people together say, so the employee said like, oh yeah, the night view is beautiful in this particular room that they have. And both of them say, arigatou gozaimasu. The actor, the voice actually said the first one, then the second one. Because there are two people there. Now the female, right? Onna no hito, the lady, said that the room is there is a large onsen, hot spring hot spring in the room. So this is the aru from last topic, the aru existence of something in a place. So heya, right? Heya ni. And then we got our first use of this topic, okina mado mo ii ne, or ii ne, ii ne. This is a window, right? There's also that window over there is also very big window. And then the guy, right? Otoko no hito, the man. This. So now we're doing koko no, the other topic, right? Koko being no is talking about the existence of something having the possession. So this place has something. So this is gorgeous, right? This area that has a ryokan is gorgeous, right? In this case, daro, which is being used as a masculine confirmation, logical thing. Then the lady says, yes, not it's very beautiful, and also there are animals over there. Saro, right? Saro, monkeys. We notice these monkeys here, right? And the man says, right, soudane. And so so desu ne. So soudane, they're fairly close together. They're like, these two are obviously very friendly with each other. So then that monkey, right? That monkey has small children. Or considering they are small children, sorry. They are small monkey children. Chisai. It's interesting that this says chisai kodomo da ne. And you can technically probably say chisana kodomo da ne, because it's still in front, but chisai is an e adjective, so it does what it wants. And then they're cute, right? Or like, it's cute, right? Like cute emphatically as a statement, right? Kawaii ne. Let's see. Yeah, soudane, you're right. Let's say then we have 風が強いね. So the wind is strong. The wind is strong, right? In an agreement situation, do you want to close the window? 窓を閉める? 閉める? Man says, yeah, you're そうだね. Tomorrow, in terms of tomorrow's lunch, over there, right over there, do you want to eat ramen or eat at the ramen shop over there? So that ramen shop over there, ramen ya de, because you're eating, so taberu yo with the emphasis, right? Then we have mura, or actually not mura. Not hiyashi either. That's fours. What is? Oh no. What is? Oh yeah, mori for woods. Woods bigger than hayashi. More than a bunch of keys. Right? So, mori is like a ramen shop in the middle of the woods. That ramen shop, that woods, right? That woods, because of ano. And the guy's like, "Yep, interesting, isn't it?" Right? Desho in this case, right? 面白い desho. 面白いラーメン屋だね. Confirmation that it is an interesting, emphatically that is an interesting ramen shop. Then this guy didn't do the probability, but tomorrow he's saying that in the afternoon it will rain, right? Or no, in the morning it will rain, and then in the afternoon the weather is going to be nice, right? ここは天気がいいよ. And then, so do you want to rest or stay at the hotel? They swapped, but do you want to rest at the hotel in the morning, right? Concerning the morning, asawa. So concerning the morning, do you want to rest at the hotel? Hotel de yasumu. And そうだね. Yeah, like right. Agreed. Yes. Neat. These are really, I love these little tiny vignettes. It would be kind of cool. That view is impressive. Like I'm thinking of certain ryokan in like the countryside anyways. Neat. Very neat. These exercises, I could do this for days. You could just read the whole time. Let's see, as a spoiler for the day after tomorrow, so maybe I'll do a couple of topics before I go into the 100. I think I'm just gonna do the take. So tomorrow is the 200 tentative take, and I think I'm gonna specifically just do that tomorrow as opposed to be on Bunpro. Actually, do we have? Nope, we're clear tomorrow. So I'm gonna go over the topics, right? The topics updates, and then whatever time I had for figuring out a vocabulary routine, and basically when and where we're gonna start the N3 block. I think it's further extended now because of the topic update. The topic update is going to probably take up the rest of the month. How much time do we have? So I'll be away starting the 29th. Be prepping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll be back on Monday. So 5 days, which leaves us 10 days. Yeah, we'll probably be doing these lessons for the most part, these topics. Really fun. So that means I don't know where I'm gonna place my mock. Like, I'm gonna do one of these mock exams, or these JLPT practice exams, the N5 ones. So it's gonna lead into that. That's why I'm going over these topics now. Lead into that. And what I'm planning to do, which I'll lay out tomorrow, probably once I think through most of the things. At one point, I'm gonna record something for, how long are these things? For the first mock one, an hour and a half. So there's gonna be one day sometime next month, I think. Oh, there's an audio check. Oh, okay. Where I'm gonna try to do the 90 minutes allotted, and then be as expedited if someone shows up or something like that. But the idea is we're just gonna record a session where I do the first mock exam, the N5 mock exam, to see what that's like, because I haven't done it yet. The idea is I stagger. So when I'm on N4, eventually N5 will roll around. When I'm on N3, then we'll take one of these N4s and the next N that's logged here, and have some experience, because this question comes up so often about, like, oh, are you N4, N3, N2? That's not to me, that's not a measure of, like, I can't, like, for me at the very moment, that's not a measure of competence, because I have no frame of reference, right? The weirdness about metrics, if I had to give a hot take, when someone uses a metric, they have to use a metric that is mutual between people. And when you do a metric, like if you take it N5, it doesn't mean you're competent in what N4, N3, N2, and N1 measures. That's one of the things. So whenever this is a practice that I feel happens online quite often, someone understands the breadth of a metric measurement when they understand a part of it. So, for example, the first time someone takes a JLPT exam, then they begin to measure everything else as though they understand what the other things measure. Now, it may be still true. It may be true that if you know how to, like, measure miles, for example, as a form of distance, that somehow makes you competent in measuring things in kilometers. That's what I mean by that. Now, that is a very simplified example, a one that can be appreciated because of how simple it is, like the simplicity, less moving parts. Now, let's exaggerate. Now, think about exaggerating that like 40-fold. Now you have lots of people who take exams, and when they take the N5, they then speak to other people as though they understand what N4, N3, N2, and N1 means, like metrically speaking. So what do I mean by like measuring metrically? It's assuming it's additive or like corollary or proportional. So like understanding that the difference between N5 and N4 is a larger gap between not taking an exam and N5. Then the gap between N4 and N3 may be dramatically either different or incredibly large gap, right? Now, when you look at the stuff and you try to categorize it, like, oh, well, they measure vocabulary, grammar, and reading, listening, and total. When you're talking to someone and you're trying to grasp their competence, that warps the perspective. So until people share the metric, it can be used as a way to gauge right? Gauge, more accurately gauge how informative that is. So for example, in N2 person, someone who has completed the N2 who talks to an N3 person, they can reflect on N3, N4, and N5 together because it is a commonly shared experience that they have. So in a way, you could use it that way to determine if you have appropriateness of conversation. However, that's not usually how people use metrics these days. They use it as extrapolation and prediction. So for that's where I get into I need to figure out what they're using it for, because to me, the vast majority of younger people who use data, who like have not participated in understanding the limitations of data, right? Extrapolation, the limitations, the upper limit, lower limits, non-standardization, like the correlation between someone's competence and the metrics you're using, or like the limitations of the metrics or the variability of the metrics. That is very important when using data. However, the younger you get, the less and less likely that is it's like rarely ever considered, largely because they haven't manipulated data, collected data, and then present data in a reasonable, critically thought out way of using the data. It's usually they look at the data, they correlate and extrapolate, and it's a very common behavior that happens. So one of the most classical ways that comes up, like the dialogue comes up nonstop in retrospect and miscommunication. The practice is that when someone completes something at its beginning level, like N5 for example, you complete N5, somehow now that person will proceed to ask people, hey, what level you are? And when someone says N2, the person that's N5 will infer like, oh, you must be very what? What does that tell you? It doesn't tell you very much. You have no gauge in what N2 means compared to N5. Now, the way you can look at metrics is that, oh, they must have more vocabulary, more grammar and reading, more listening, and more listening skills. That is a reasonable way to look at it. However, that's not how people are using metrics. They're using metrics to predict the gap between people. There's no way you can know that. And the later stage, like the later the stage gets, so now let's say a person who is N1 and they ask, what's your N level, right? What N level are you? And they'll say N5. Now, N1 could do two primary things that typically occurs. The person either think back to what it was like as N5, so the metrics, and maybe provide like a conversation topic that is common to both, which in my opinion happens less often. The most often one is this person talks about the gap between N5 and N1. They would talk about things that, oh, hey, wait till you get to N4 and do this. Wait till you get to N3 and do this. Oh, here's a N2 concept that you'll get to eventually. That is extrapolation. So now you're extrapolating. You pass the N1 guy has passed all the other N's, and they are assuming that the N5 person who will take N4, N3, N2, N1, that your advice or your way of talking is going to be useful. That is hypothetical extrapolation. So usually when you're using data, extrapolation predictive thing is not intentionally the purpose. It is not the purpose of metrics. The most reliable part about metrics is comparing what exists together, not what may exist together. So I do, to go back to this topic, I get this question a lot, and the impression I get often, and the constant asking for advice, like the root or one of the sources of behavioral consequences of what I'm describing, is people saying, why do I feel like I don't know anything? Or why do I feel like I'm not N3 competent? Or I feel like my listening's at an N2 and my speaking is at like an N4. That's what I mean. And it happens so often that it happens far more often than not, that it's a gap in using metrics to predict something it does not, or one of the limitations of what it does not. And I'm not talking about what it actually measures. Like if you pass the N1, you have a measurement of your N5 score, N4, N3, and N2 score. When you finish an N5 exam, you have a metric that is a measure of that. Those things you can compare because they exist. Everything else, the vast majority of conversations that people compare, like apples and oranges, they're still comparing apples and oranges. We're not going to even get into like confounding variables in critical thinking. Most of the time, people are comparing hypothetical situations with each other, as in like it doesn't even exist. It's extrapolation. So the vast majority of people, when they, in my opinion, when they use metrics, they are not even using the metrics themselves that are recorded. They are comparing hypothetical situations with each other. Like, oh, I'm in N, like someone will say, I'm in N1. So hypothetically, I should know what N2, N3, N4, and N5 is like for everyone else. That is absolutely a tall, bold statement. That is not how data works, right? So the longer and farther in of a hypothetical situation you're doing is further and further away from the data that actually exists. That makes your comments, your perspective, and your critical thinking less and less reliable, right? And this is where you cue the stereotype, correlation is not causation. And yet, despite all these metrics, the most common type of application of standardization is to correlate causation. That is constantly how people talk. They talk as though the data leads to causation. When you compare data, the most reliable way to compare data is the existence of that data. That is the primary objective, or like objective part of the scientific method. Like if you're being objective, stop using, like, reframe or resist the need to try to presume and extrapolate hypothetical positions. If I had $1 for every time someone says, well, it's just objective truth, it's just common sense, and then it's some extrapolated presumption that they made from data that can't possibly say that, and they're not saying it's inferred from the data, it's facts. Maybe I could pick up a 5090, a 5090 here to like play GTA 6 when it comes out, or something like that. It's happened at least on a daily basis 10 or so times a month. So you just multiply that by approximately 8 years and probably okay, we still be shy of a 5090. But hey, this is one of the things. Standardized testing it no longer means the same thing anymore. Like there was a time when people compare SAT scores, right? They literally just compare SAT scores. They don't compare based on what the SAT scores tell them about themselves and compare that as facts. Like, you scored in the 99th percentile. That's neat. Someone scored in the 98th percentile. 99th percentile is better on the metric than the 98th percentile. And what can that tell you? That's where the discussion is happening. Not, I'm in the 99th percentile, so I know I'm better than you. So now listen to what I have to say because I know more than you. And then that's where the advice comes from. The metric is after extrapolating what the thing means. That is inappropriate. It's incredibly inappropriate, which leads to a lot of misunderstanding, misinformation, that type of thing, right? Here's my favorite topic, right, of today was the aru and iru situation. That's where the competence part comes in. Someone, right, told me that aru does not mean possession. It means existence. Existence is its primary meaning. Both. When something is not there in your own world, you can't extrapolate or presume that it doesn't exist. And if you choose to ignore something, it still doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You have to observe what does exist in order to compare and contrast. So if I'm reading this as have, and some people suggest it can mean have as well as exist, then you have to compare the actual evidence, not pretend like evidence don't exist and evidence do exist because you extrapolate it from your own experience. That's called subjectivity, right? Right. That's the whole idea of subjectivity. You are interpreting what you think is more important and not important. So going about like talking about like you're trying to be objective and these are facts and whatnot, I think a vast majority of people talk in hypotheticals. They talk about extrapolated data. That's not facts. Extrapolation and interpretation is an extension from the facts. Like, Japanese is very hard for most English speakers. That's an extrapolation of data when you're talking to someone. You can confirm if it's hard by asking them. That would end up being an observable thing, right? At least an observable evidence that it supports your conjecture of data. So when someone comes up to me and say, oh, I see you speak English. Well, here are some problems you will have as an English speaker. That's extrapolation. You're extrapolating based on existing data. The data, you can state that it, according to existing data, many of the people who were recorded and tested have problems with these particular topics. Not you will have problems with these because you are an English speaker. That is an extrapolation of data. You are presuming something. So whenever you open your mouth and someone says, well, I didn't actually encounter that, then you put your foot in your mouth and say, oh yeah, that's right. I wasn't being objective. I was being subjective. Very, very sharp words, I know. And obviously, I'm only talking about this in terms of the hypothetical person. So what actually happens in practice would be, I would state, that seems like a very bold statement. May I ask, why do you think that I would have, what is the logical reasoning that you have used and your source of data that supports the idea that you could presume that about me? That would be what I say, right? I would ask them, okay, can you show me a source of where your actual evidence and data is? Because what you told me was your opinion. What you told me was supposition. it was extrapolated from a probability that it would happen. So that's why experience does not replace data. So that person had zero experience with the person they're talking to. That would be actual data. So if the person actually asked me, oh, did you have problems with this? And if I said yes, then that is actual experience that created data in which then that data can be compared to the data that already exists. That would be science. Not, and as objective as possible. Obviously collecting data not blind is still selectively biased. It's not the same as saying, oh, I see that you have a problem with English, with Japanese topic that most English, and therefore I can correlate this thing. It's still a correlation. And more observation does create more data. When you say something before it is confirmed or observed, then it is supposition. It is subjective. This one is a pretty big topic about the framework. It's not quite bad or good for me personally. I feel like there is a contributor. This is a great this type of perspective on data is a contributor to a lot of unfortunate consternation, misinterpretation, or like things that make people upset at each other or kind of lost or worried at each other. And that's what I'm trying to mitigate. I'm not here to tell you if you're happy doing this and you always get the results you want, go for it. I'm not here to gaslight you into saying, oh, this is going to contribute to your harmful well-being, or it's going to hurt you or deal damage to you internally or hit you in the motivation. These are all actual anecdotes, because the problem with metrics and the use of metrics is not exclusive to JLPT. It's YouTube views, Twitch subscriptions, number of followers, your ratio of likes and dislikes on your video. Most of the time, people who are upset, not because I'm upsetting them, they're upsetting themselves. Like when they think about how they interpret the views of like the ratios, how their metrics, how they use the metrics of their videos and stuff, what it can tell you, may tell you, likely going to tell you versus what it can't tell you or unlikely to tell you. That's very important for those who are upset, who are like in a vicious cycle. Like, I don't understand why I'm struggling with speaking even though I'm N2. Do you see speaking on here? Like, do you see speaking? It says vocab, grammar, and reading and listening. Do you see any form of speaking? I mean, I obviously haven't. I'm asking the hypothetical person. I don't even know, so I can't even assume what's in it yet. Like, I don't even have experience to know what is even in a practice exam. So I'm not going to go out and say, oh, well, it says vocab here and it says listening and grammar reading, so you guys must have known these things. You can only know if they have taken these things. It's presumptuous and extrapolation if I were assuming, like, someone says, oh yeah, I'm N4, and I'm like, okay, so that means you know all these things, right? I could ask you about all these things. I would be presuming that. All right, just thought I'd get that out there because I'm gonna do a mock exam at some point in the near future, probably sometime next month, and I'm probably going to talk about this topic a couple more, because when I say, oh, I've done this practice exam, the now, in order for me to really use this data, it would mean that I hope other people also did this practice exam so that we can, a little bit more closely compare and contrast, and then use that as a form of discussion for extrapolation. So really big point I want to make. It's pervasive across the current generation. Very pervasive across the current generation. How to handle data. In my opinion, they haven't ever handled data. So willy-nilly, right? Playing it by ear, and oftentimes they're like, oh yeah, I already completed N5 and N4's lessons, so therefore I should know it. That's not what this says. That's not what this says, this number. And then you look at this thing where it tells you, oh, you're an expert and you mastered it. That's also not what that says. That says how many times you've gotten something right consecutively versus getting it wrong. And also it tells you how many exposures that you received of this grammar point. It does not tell you, like, it literally can't tell you if you've mastered the thing. It tells you how many times you've gotten it correct versus incorrect in a span of time, and how many, it could track how many occurrences and exposure you had. It also doesn't track how you were thinking, what your level of competence were, like, did I do, like, for example, if I look at this, I haven't done N3, N2, N1. There are going to be people who have done N2, N3 stuff while these things come back up. Right? So then when they're engaging in this, you're assuming that it is the same engagement, which may not be true. So all of that noise, you go to the forums, and all of that noise will come back up. And the root of that noise is coming from individuals who interpret data that doesn't tell them that. Like, what does 132 out of 132 mean? It means you saw the lesson, all the lessons, at least one time. How does this tell you that you have learned all 132 points? It does not. It doesn't stop someone from extrapolating that over and over again. Right? So the literal thing, be objective, right? Being objective means that you can only know what the evidence exists, and then extrapolating is interpretation. So it deals with some form of subjectivity. Like predictable mathematics and whatnot may be a little bit more higher in fidelity, right? Like you look at a chart and then you're like, what does this tell you? I actually have no idea what this chart is supposed to tell me because I don't use the SRS thing anymore. I imagine if you obey the SRS, the graph would look a little different, right? Like, you look at this graph, right? What does that tell you about my study habits in Bunpro? Some people will definitely try to figure out what this means to them. And I do have a lot of issue, like the ones that I interact with, how they comprehend data. I literally spent like a couple hours recently trying to ascertain where the comprehension loss is between being presented data and then being asked about it. Like, what does the data tell you? How do you interpret the data? Use your words in English, not even in Japanese. Describe what this graph actually tells you. And oftentimes the comprehension is lost because there's a leap of logic. Like, oh, if this went down, that means it's a measure of efficiency in consistency, right? If you look at this graph, you're going to be like, well, this person certainly isn't consistent. They did something consistently and then they stopped. Is that really what the data says? Is that what that said? It says that on these days, I did around 20 vocabulary And then on certain days, I did 0. And then you're asking yourself, so what could explain this? And the first thing you thought about is, well, they basically just stop studying. That would be one of the conclusions that someone would make. It's like, no, this is the topic update. How would you know that? You wouldn't. Then what makes it so easy for you to come up with an interpretation like this, right? Occam's razor, maybe using Occam's razor to predict something. But for the record, Occam's razor, in my opinion, typically tries to explain data that exists. It doesn't try to create data that doesn't exist yet. So like, if you're trying to predict something, that's a little different than trying to explain data that exists. Explaining something that already exists can accurately use Occam's razor. Trying to use Occam's razor to predict what's going to happen, that is... whew, good luck. Good luck. Because you get things like, just play more forehead, just read more manga forehead. That's what you get when you get Occam's razor using data to predict and offer advice. Like, hey, this is the only right answer, forehead. Like, that's usually how Occam's razor end up when you do that, finding the simplest predictive explanation of something that doesn't exist yet. Okay, all right, a little bit pedantic. I wanted to highlight that. Tomorrow I won't like be doing Bunpro. Technically like use the Bunpro thing, but we will be talking about Bunpro for the day 200 thing. So big deal. Review things, help me grab introspection and review like all the ideas that are coming together. Right? Alright folks. That's a wrap for Bunpro today. If you're gonna watch this later, arigatou gozaimasu. As always, feel free to follow along, pick up Bunpro for yourself. You're most welcome. Come on by, yap, discuss, offer your counterpoints. I really like the idea of being challenged, and what is discussed becomes evidence, right? When people have experience discussing with each other, then they actually have actualized things to discuss about, not inferred or presumed. So more than welcome. I would love a slice of humble pie and hubris, right? It keeps me disciplined and consistently trying to parse how to talk to people, get better at these things, and I'm ever grateful for that. Without all the wonderful mentors in my life and people that I have privileged spending time with, I would not be able to do many of these things. And I hope I continue to have the opportunity to do so. So you're more than welcome. Until next time, 皆さんまたね。見てくれてありがとう. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. I'm gonna get up, stretch, take a quick bathroom break, and I'll be back for HanziHero. Thank you. Alright, folks. Welcome back, everyone. 欢迎大家回来。今天是第552天 Day 552. Let's get into our lessons that we added.
夜宵
Xiao. Yeah, the owl. Tough one is the reed. Xiao. Nothing screams to me Xiao. Closest thing is probably Niao. Maybe. Oh, you know what? Niao is kind of... Alright, so it's a pivot away from Niao. Alright. And then we have night. So when I think of a night sort of bird, I honestly do default to owl.
夜宵跆拳道
Taekwondo. This is awesome. Taekwondo is Taekwondo, which is not a transliteration. It seems. Because it makes sense. You trample people with your foot, and your foot, it's more like a foot thing. Like foot, fist, way. Pretty good. Taekwondo. Wait. I should... Taekwondo.
跆拳道
And I have an attachment to Taekwondo.
兵宁
Ding Ning. Surprisingly effective. Ding being like the stinging and Ning. So if you're urging someone and it's stinging, it's like you're warning them, exulting, like urgently. There's an urgency to the urgent thing. The urging has an urgency.
兵宁贤明
Xian Ming. Oh, Xian is rough. Worthy. Closest is a pivot from Jian. Jian is on the top. And I usually default to that. That's Xian. And it does deal with worth, which the bottom character does help out with the worth. And Ming. So if something is bright and worthy, you can think of it as a sage or sagacious. I haven't used sagacious in a while. Of the qualities of a sage or wise and compatible. I think wise is fine.
贤明
Wise and capable.
贤明夜宵兵宁跆拳道
Alright. Ooh wee. Alright, time to hydrate. Spinning wheel of death. Boy. Okay. Which one is this? It is... I don't think it's pedestal. I think it's... Oh no, it is pedestal. Okay. Aw, it's probably yarn. I don't use a yarn too often anymore. Okay.
赢 酸
YOLO? Dang it. I'll have to come back to that. Oh no. How does the stitch thing work? Is it wrong? Oh no. Dang it. Ah!
B
What the shredder? Oh no. It's shabby. I think we added a word for shabby. We did add a word for shabby. You see your DM? No, coffers. We already talked about this. I don't have Discord up when... Persona spin-offs? Of course. Persona itself is a spin-off, so kind of flavor. Need something to do during your 3 weeks off as for Sun Chippers. Of course. But they're probably gonna be slow at a time. I don't know if you know, Carvers, that Persona is the spin-off. You can play all the Shin Megami Tensei games if you want. Shin Megami Tensei was the parental world, and then Persona was a spin-off of that. So how many spin-offs of Persona do we have? I think I'll likely play Tactica and Strikers, honestly. I'll play Tactica and Strikers. I probably won't play P4U. If I could get my hands on P4D and P5D, maybe. They're not available, so is Sun a garden salsa or a French onion? Sun is dry spice, Coffers. How dare you call him a wet thing? I guess French onion is a dry spice. Garden salsa, though. Oh, he's not gonna like that you said that. I'm gonna tell on you. Floaty rock. That was like... Some part of me wants to Lil. Oh no. What the Lil? Is it sulfur? Nah, you just gotta know. You gotta know if you gotta know. Some part of me want to type bo. It's not. So either gonna be boo or foo. Heck, it's poo. Wait. Oh, I had the wrong tone the first time. Hang on. We can find a vocabulary word for this. Pretty sure. They're only on PS4 and Vita? Yeah, I figured. It's not that they're never gonna be on. Eventually.